So after playing a lot of racing games recently, there is something I really did want to talk about, which is going to simply come down to what is proper progression in racing games. We all do know right now a lot of newer games nowadays, guys, probably doesn't actually capture this all that great. And I would say a lot of people are going to be like, no man, we don't want anything like Forza or something like the Crew. And you know what? I kind of understand that to a T at this point, especially after going back in and playing a lot of other racing games. The thing is about the entire proper progression in a racing game, this is something I have pretty much been seeing everywhere, and it's also going to be a big discussion after Forza Horizon 5 being on PlayStation and Forza in general and stuff like that, and then looking at the crew, how you could pretty much bring all of your cars over. Then people are going to flip over and look at something like Need for Speed and all that, how you start in like a terrible vehicle. So it really is going to be a lot of different areas of this, and I also kind of wonder what exactly would be the best way to do it. Now, the thing is, a lot of people are probably tired of the traditional way that games are going to be pretty much throwing you in there, as you're going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to be a motorsport racer or something, or I have to go beat all of these people. You're pretty much going to get cars handed to you left and right, and a lot of the overall progression isn't going to be there because a lot of people don't want to start in a supercar. They probably want to drive a really terrible vehicle, like, for example, starting off in Underground 2, or starting off in something like Midnight Club Los Angeles or Midnight Club 3 and stuff, to where you pretty much come in here and they're like, okay, well, you pick a car, bro. You're going to have three very low level vehicles. They're almost like Need for Speed the Run, or, some of these games where you're probably going to start in a slower vehicle. And it's not immediately going to be like, okay, well, you completed two races. Here is a Lamborghini, or here is a different type of vehicle if you want to run it. It is going to be along the lines of, okay, well, you're going to have a very slow car whether you like it or not. And guess what? You're also going to struggle in these races until you get a better one, or you can make enough money to level that car up slightly and progress through it even more. This is something I really was noticing, whether it's going to be Need for Speed Carbon, even Need for Speed Undercover. Even though a lot of people did not like that game, it's still kind of there with the progression standpoint, as you are going to start in a pretty terrible car there. A lot of people are like, okay, well, if we're going to have actual progression in the game, can we please start off super slow? Let me pick a very slow vehicle, like when you go to that cutscene and there's going to be three cars there, right? You're probably going to pick one of three, like a muscle car, an old JDM or something like that. You pick one of those cars and start off from nowhere, which was one of my favorite things about Midnight Club Los Angeles. You pretty much jump in there and you're going to literally be starting from nowhere in a very slow vehicle, and you have to learn the races. You got to get a bit better, level it up a bit, then get better cars and all that stuff. And I do kind of feel like that is going to be more of a sense of progression. Let me give you guys another example here. Let's say you just started Forza Horizon 5, or even the Crew Motorfest, to be honest, because they are going to be similar but a tad different, because if you played the Crew 2, you could pretty much start Motorfest with 600 something vehicles if you did play the Crew 2 a lot. So you're pretty much starting the game out with over 600 cars for that matter, so you can kind of use them, even though in the playlist you can't use them because the game forces you to use other vehicles. Which is also an odd way to do the progression standpoint, because if you do want to progress through the game, you're going to have all of these cars that the game gives you, but you can't use any of them because it wants you to use the cars in the playlist, which is kind of odd because a lot of people want to drive their own cars, which is obviously another issue with progression, because you might actually want to start in a way slower car, but instead you're driving a super fast one. Right after that, you could pretty much race in a Bugatti not too long after, so a lot of that's not really going to feel like progression. On the other side of that, in Forza though, you're obviously going to start off quick, guys, and I am going to also take this stand here. When I was playing the game like an hour in, I already had a bunch of supercars. Funny part is I don't really drive them, but you still are going to get them from wheel spins or even different things. I did like the fact that you get like rewards and stuff, or be rewarded higher leveled vehicles from doing challenges. I thought that was cool, even though it's not necessarily going to be a progression point, which we all do know in Forza Horizon 5 pretty much isn't as good as the older games, where those are probably going to have a bigger sense of progression. Another game I was noticing this in was going to be Need for Speed Pro Street. You really did start off with some of the worst vehicles ever, like a bad drag car, a bad race car, and you pretty much had to go in there, win the races, get a name for yourself, and unlock different upgrades, and then get better vehicles down the road. whether that was going to be like a better drag car and stuff, because honestly I was struggling a bit in that game with certain drag cars and different racing vehicles and stuff, just trying to progress and get better through the game and get better vehicles. But sometimes, guys, the beginning grind in these games is very slow, and with that I wonder if people are going to be okay with it, because nowadays a lot of people are kind of getting instant gratification with the games, like they want everything. When they find out they're going to have to grind or do certain things in some games, they're like, no man, I want this car right now, or I don't want to have to do all that to get to this point. I want all of these vehicles, right? It's kind of a big issue. And that's also probably the way these games are designed nowadays, because if we look at something like an old Need for Speed game or something like that, you're going to start in a terrible vehicle. Like Midnight Club 3, man, there is no way around it. Same with Midnight Club Los Angeles. You're not going to be able to cheat your way through the whole game with the best car in the game. You are literally going to have to struggle in some races because you might not have the money to upgrade it, or you might not actually be able to even buy another vehicle because you have to complete other ones. So there is going to be different dynamics there, and I feel like that would be a sense of progression that I personally also really enjoyed. When I went back in and played Midnight Club Los Angeles, man, I had a wonderful time playing that game again. It was so dang fun going back in and starting from zero and then building your way up, and you're going to feel like a sense of like, yo, I actually did all these races, I leveled up, I got this car, I really did work for this thing, man. And speaking of that, though, there's also something I've really liked about Need for Speed Carbon. Even something like Undercover and Midnight Club Los Angeles had it, including the old ones. That will end up coming down to the fact of getting something like a pink slip vehicle when you are struggling, or maybe you're trying to progress through the game a bit. This was something I really liked about Carbon, guys, because it's going to give you a different sense of progression, right? You are going to start there, you're driving kind of a bad car, you might get to like a boss type of race, or they're going to be like, if you beat me, you get this vehicle, if you win this tournament, you get this car, or something like that. That car is then going to be a tad higher leveled or something, or a little bit better in a different category. That is going to allow you to then progress through the actual story or the game itself. That can get you into more races. You can level that car up and use that one in different places, and then do other races that might get you a different vehicle and stuff. And I honestly really did enjoy that. That was something I really liked about Carbon, because I was going through the game and doing the races and going, okay, well, I need to buy another vehicle, but I don't really have the money. But I realized if I win this race, I might have a chance at a pink slip vehicle, and then I can use this car a bit, save my money even more, and go after the car that I actually want. So you are obviously going to be progressing through that, which I feel like a lot of players probably do miss. And that was the biggest thing I do want to know from y'all, though. What is the biggest way and what is the proper progression in a racing game that you guys would like to see? Let me know in the comments below, which way would you like to go back to, whether it's Most Wanted 05, Underground 2, Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition, or even something like Midnight Club Los Angeles, Carbon. I can keep naming these games on and on. But would y'all actually rather go back to something like that compared to what we do have now? A lot of people could argue that some of the newer Need for Speed games do kind of give that a bit. Then again, though, it's also going to come down to like the story part of it, because if the game doesn't actually have a story, you're kind of just going to be in a festival type of setting. You can kind of just race, and everyone's like, yo, dude, you're going to be the best racer here, so jump on in there. Here's a Lamborghini. I hope you can win. It's like, oh, I already have one of these? I just started 20 minutes ago, bro. So that's probably going to be the type of thing that people probably don't want to see anymore. And to be honest, I can really see where people are coming from with that, man. Like, going back and playing the old games, I had such a great time playing through them, knowing that I pretty much started from the bottom, having the worst vehicles ever and the worst upgrades, to pretty much coming out at the end of that game having some of the fastest cars in there, the best upgrades, having money and resources to get other vehicles and test them out. That really did feel so much better than how the newer games are, and I kind of feel like that really is something that is missing nowadays. And who knows, maybe we're going to see some new racing games. I do know there's going to be a few in development right now, which I really do hope those are going to probably capture like the story part of it, to where you progress. And it's funny because even the Crew 1 kind of had a bit of progression to it. Was the story 100% great? Of course it wasn't, but at least you were kind of starting from the bottom. You had to level your vehicle up and all that stuff and kind of progress through there. I did actually enjoy that for the most part, even though the story kind of was subjective. Not everybody liked it, but either way though, it does seem like a lot of people really want to go back to that. I would almost guess right now that a lot of people probably don't want to have a festival racer, but more of a story-driven racing game, which I did make a video on that. If you guys want to check it out, the tag is on the screen. The funny part is, though, if you are looking at that in that aspect, though, you're probably like, okay, well, if this game is probably going to have a story part, you are most likely probably going to have a worse type of vehicle than a better one, and you're probably going to have to deal with that until you can actually level up. And sometimes driving a really bad car in a game like that, man, like Midnight Club, for example, you are going to struggle, man. Like, you're going to have a higher difficulty, and the funny part is, the better your car is, the better the difficulty of the racers is going to be. So either way, you're probably going to struggle, but the slower your car with no upgrades and trying to just progress through the game a bit, you are probably going to struggle a bit, man. And it's something I really have been noticing a lot more going back in playing many of these games. I think it's something special that many of the new games are honestly just missing. A lot of players want progression back in racing games, and the biggest thing is, what is the proper way to actually do it? I am curious to know your thoughts on this in the comments below, guys. Do let me know what you think. I can't wait to see, because I do know there's different parts of this that people would like to see, and I am curious because I might even make a follow-up video on this, because I really do feel like this entire topic is something the entire racing game genre honestly needs, and I think it's super overdue for it.